I haven't made any spontaneous recordings for a while. Just haven't felt like it. I just sat down on this big root of this big western sycamore tree. And I got red ants walking on me. And it's kind of a secret spot. I take my girls, or take my dog in this case this morning. And it's an absolutely beautiful morning. It's a beautiful spot. The sun is bright, but I'm in the shade. You may be able to hear just a little waterfall in the distance. Very calm and placid on the top, and then it falls into a more kind of torrential stream, I guess, little river, stream. I sat down and I said to myself, I feel like crying, but I don't know why. And the reason I hit record is we live in this society that has completely and totally pathologized emotion, pathologized the sensations of the body, and rather than looking at our body as this vessel that has generational knowledge and wisdom, and the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of all of humankind throughout time, our modern constructs of medicine, things I think of as like medical mythology that ultimately serve. And I'm not saying all of medicine, I'm not that kind of a thinker. I'm just saying we have a medical mythology and we have a sort of pathologized perspective on the natural experience of being in our body. And rather than learning to observe and to trust and to experience the emotions in our body that are just an indication of much deeper awareness, we tend to immediately turn what we feel into some sort of pathology. We say, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me. I'm feeling anxiety. Something must be wrong with me. I'm feeling depressed. Something must be wrong with me. I'm using the language of anxiety and depression. Something must be wrong with me. Rather than, we have been taught and trained our entire life, throughout our entire existence, by just being born into a certain type of societal construct, a certain type of cultural construct. We have been taught and trained and sort of forced into a perspective that we should not trust our own natural instincts. We shouldn't trust our own emotions. And it's not in any way conspiratorial to suggest that that is deliberate, that there's a deliberate mythology and there's a deliberate ideology. Scarlett, come here. Don't get too far. Good girl. There's a deliberate ideology there. There's a deliberate mythology there that becomes perceived as a choice. It becomes justified and perceived as a choice or as a normalized perspective or ideology or construct, when really it's something that basically forces all people to live in the opposite direction of their own truth, of their own humanity, of their own natural instincts. And so we take the entirety of our instinctual, emotional, natural, sensational experience that exists beyond language, beyond intellect, and we pathologize it immediately instead of observing it, noticing it, listening to it, allowing it to guide us. And rather than saying it is something that has been poorly calibrated over the course of our entire life, meaning we live in a body, we live in a vessel that is naturally made to sense, it's naturally made to feel, It's naturally made to observe. It's naturally made to take in knowledge and information from the environment and to learn how to progressively be symbiotic with the environment and to create within the environment and to grow within the environment. So emotions are not the problem. It's training, it's poor teaching, it's poor training, it's poor calibration. So our bodies have been calibrated poorly, and so we automatically experience and perceive our emotions to be something that is untrustworthy or broken or flawed. And indeed, our emotional experience and our cognitive experience, our perceptual experience does become distorted and flawed over time because of very poor algorithms, because of very poor teaching, because of very poor guidance. When the natural capability of the body and the mind, the natural instinctual built-in capability of the body and the mind is far more profound than I think we give it credit for. I think we are made to feel and to experience in a way that is far beyond our present modern understanding of it. And I'm not trying to get magical. I'm just saying I think that we're much more deeply connected to each other and to the planet and to the world and to the universe and to God and to everything than we really understand. So when I sit down in a place that I love and that I experience beauty, and I get away from the distractions and the programming and the constraints of my day-to-day life and the world that encompasses it, I feel a deep sensation within me that says I notice I feel like I have to cry. And I feel sort of a welling up from within my belly and within my throat, up into my eyes. It doesn't feel weak. It doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel wrong. It feels like my body needs to release something, like my body needs to get rid of something. And indeed, I've spent the past week or two of my life navigating my life as a dad, as a father, as a single father, as an ex-husband, as a man, as a person in this society who's navigating bills and taxes and insurance and physical injuries, and I'm navigating life with many, many other people through my role as a clinical psychologist. And I'm seeing and experiencing and perceiving and sensing and feeling what they feel when they go through their life experiences. And I see the pain, I see the injury, I see the powerlessness, I see the poor teaching, the poor calibration that has led to their present suffering. And I spend time guiding them through that and learning to retrain and reteach and recalibrate and to do what we call healing, which inevitably requires a great amount of release of shit that is accumulated in the body. So this feeling I have within my body out here in this beautiful place is something that I become acquainted with and something I become comfortable with to where I can hit record and share this moment. And I recognize that my body needs to open up and to allow and to release. And I hesitate to attach language to it because I could call it grief, I could call it sadness, I could call it pain, I could call it whatever I want. It seems like my body accumulates sadness, or it accumulates pain, or it accumulates grief. And it doesn't feel like it's only my own, it's shared with others. I don't think you can have an open heart or an open mind without observing the suffering of the world around you. And for me personally, my choice and my practice is to grow through that suffering, to allow that suffering to be a teacher, to try to transcend the idea of suffering, and to do the work that I need to do. And so what I do in a space like this is I use my breath and I use body movement to open up and to allow whatever I need to release to come out. What we typically call pathology is actually resistance to that. So if I'm resisting my pain or my sadness or my grief, I'm going to experience anxiety because my brain is going to perceive whatever I resist as potentially threatening or detrimental. So if we perceive our automatic experience of emotion as something threatening or negative, and we've been taught to do that over the course of our life, and we're living in a society that reinforces that, then I'm going to automatically perceive the energy I'm carrying around in my body as something pathological or negative, and I'm going to resist it. I'm going to judge it. I'm going to tell a story about it. I'm going to try to run away from it. And I'm going to go about finding some substance or some practice or some method or something that society has to offer me to try to get away from my own pain, rather than just laying back and opening it up and allowing it to be expressed and released, and then beginning again and starting fresh. The body's made to heal itself. I can't explain it all, but the body's made to heal itself, and it will try to purge and get rid of what is not good for it. So if I've accumulated something, my body will attempt to get rid of it, emotionally and physically. So it's okay to open up. It's okay to release. It's okay to do the opposite of resistance and avoidance and denial. And it's okay to allow that emotion and that energy to be released from your body. We have tears for a reason. That's all I have to say in the moment. So I just spent about 5 minutes just standing there beside the water, doing some deep breathing, not with the intention of avoiding my emotions, not with the intention of getting away from what I feel, with the intention of opening up sort of the channel of my throat and my gut and my heart, and allowing whatever emotion and energy needs to come out to come out. And it's not bad. It's not miserable. It feels like a release. It feels like a purge. And I hope that word purge is not triggering to some people, because it's not meant to be. As I'm talking, I'm walking down a trail through a bunch of really tall weeds, and I'm keeping my eyes out for rattlesnakes, and it's very beautiful out here. But I just did what I've learned how to do, to open up my body, to open up my heart. And what I wanted to share, why I hit record now after the fact, is that we're constantly taught that intellect is king, that intellect is the highest order of things for being a human being. And I even hear people I really respect, super smart, intelligent human beings that are like AI programmers, for example, that seem to think of intellect, conscious intellect, as the highest order of things. And maybe it is. Maybe I'm just really naive, and that's totally possible. And as I'm standing here, pausing on this trail, there are tiny little pieces of what look like cotton flowing through the air. I am by willow trees, cottonwood trees. It almost looks like snow, except it's really warm and it's really green, and the sun is reflecting off of all the leaves. Imagine being surrounded by different tones of green with little pieces of cotton flowing through the air gently. It feels kind of magical when you just experience it in the moment without any sort of distraction. So what I observe in a moment like this is I don't know why. I can't identify yet why I feel the way that I feel. But my deeper self, my deeper consciousness, my body awareness is experiencing something, is feeling something that it decided is not good for me, that it needs to get rid of. And I've learned to trust my body. I've learned to train my body. I've learned to calibrate my body. I've learned to hone the vessel that I live in so that I can trust it instead of pathologizing it. And I do feel more open. I do feel lighter. I do feel more free. What I experienced 5 minutes ago, I think a lot of people would interpret or would be taught and trained, even by psychologists, would be, you're depressed, you're anxious. We got to find a way to get rid of that. We got to find a way to get rid of your symptoms. We got to find a way to medicate you. Rather than trust it, open up to it, listen to it, express it, work on opening the body and allowing it to be expressed, and then it will release like a pressure valve, and then you'll feel better. But you'll only feel better after you totally acknowledge and validate and love and nurture yourself. And again, the point being, I'm back to the main trail now and I got to hook up Scarlett. The point being that I still don't know yet why I'm feeling how I'm feeling. I can't pinpoint one specific experience that would lead to me feeling this way right now. What I can say is I navigate a lot with a lot of people. And again, I'm just a man, I'm just a dad, I'm a single dad, I'm a single man. I have things I observe in my personal life and my individual life that result in grief, sadness, remorse, pain, just like anybody else. And simultaneously, I am living this great mystery, which is I'm aware and I have consciousness and I can step back and observe my mind and body and observe how it expresses itself just from a place of awe and curiosity. And I have to do both. So I don't have a specific story or a specific why about why I'm feeling what I'm feeling or why I need to allow it to come out. I've just learned to trust the feelings. I've learned to trust the sensations. And rather than suppress, deny, avoid, drink, drug, run, masturbate, whatever, make it go away somehow, I've learned to progressively open it up. Doesn't mean I haven't lived a life and lived a story and been through those types of forms of denial and avoidance, just like everyone. It just means I've progressively learned to surrender. And what I've learned in my practice as a psychologist in trusting these mechanisms within myself, which I think really where I connect with people, my mind will eventually catch up. For me, it's usually through observation or meditation that I'm able to sit there and say, okay, I notice I'm having these sensations and I notice the stories attached to those sensations, and I can identify a whole bunch of things that have taken place in the last week that have likely accumulated in my body, in my heart, in my mind. Just think of being a human being and alive and having your heart and your eyes open. You can't live in this world and see with open eyes without the lens of ideology or mythology or story or politics. If you see little children suffering, if you see men and women suffering, if you see animals suffering, if you see the world around you experiencing what you perceive to be unjust pain, and then you're experiencing your own form of what you perceive to be unjust pain, even normal everyday things like paying more taxes than you feel like you should have to, like paying a whole bunch of insurance companies who don't actually want to do anything for you, like constantly feeling strangled by the legal obligation to pay a bunch of large corporations the majority of your paycheck just so that you can be in this society. You know, you don't have to go through some great trauma. We kind of tell that story, like somehow you have to have this trauma story. You have to have some specific diagnosis to be considered worthy of some sort of intervention or support or compassion or treatment. Rather than just being alive with an open heart and open mind and being empathic to the suffering of the world around you, while also being aware of your own, just trying to be a person navigating this life as a father, as a person, then you recognize that why I feel what I feel. And what I teach everyone, what I train everyone, what I teach my children, what I work on myself is, how can I navigate this environment, this world, in a way that allows me to be present, in a way that allows me to open up, in a way that allows me to love, in spite of all those things, in a way that allows me to be strong, to be a warrior, in spite of all those things. And I recognize there's all sorts of models that we can utilize that guide us there, like Stoicism, like Buddhism, like martial arts, whatever you want to call it, yoga, whatever practice, whatever philosophy, whatever methodology works for you. There's many of them, but inevitably they allow us to open up, to surrender, to let go of resistance, and experience and observe the suffering of the world around you, while also being of service to it, while also being in love with it, while also seeing the grand beauty in all of it, like I just am right now in this moment as I got into my car after this beautiful walk with my dog Scarlet. And you can even tell as I'm talking, as I'm processing, as I'm exploring, I can express many different reasons why my body has accumulated sadness and grief over the course of the past week. And I haven't taken the time in the past week to get away from everybody and everything and all the noise and all the distractions, to get out into nature, which works for me, to open my heart, to open my body, and just to allow Mother Nature to hold me and to express what I need to express and to feel what I need to feel and to start over again, to begin again, to get back in the game. So I love all of you, and I'm just sharing from my heart because I assume we're all navigating the same stuff.